This is your host, Todd Lewis of the Praise of Folly podcast. This is the first episode, episode 0 of a monthly series called The Roundtable, where we have people from different perspectives discussing either current events or discussing philosophy, economics, a whole host of different issues. And we're going to start off with this is our Columbus Day podcast. I'm again joined by Fritz Imperial, and we're here to discuss the European colonization and what we've seen since probably the late 80s, early 90s is a rise of Marxist historical revisionism based on the European contact with the indigenous peoples of the Americas. And they've tried to rename it like Indigenous Peoples Day or some such nonsense. And the narrative goes something like this. Prior to the Europeans, the native peoples were these peaceful, the noble savages living in harmony with nature and each other. Forget about Aztec human sacrifice for a moment. And the Europeans come in like genocidal proto-Nazis and wage a war of ceaseless extermination against the indigenous population. And they sort of had an ineffectual, people's war, Marxist style, against the Europeans with, a unified front. There were like no natives that sold out to the Europeans, except there were, but we don't talk about them. And it's this one long story of dispossession of an innocent and noble population by brutish and crude Europeans. That's sort of the narrative. And top to bottom, it's complete garbage. Hello, this is your host, Todd Lewis of the Praise of Folly podcast. Tonight, I'm joined again by my colleague, Brock Bellerive, and we're here to discuss atheism. This is going to be the beginning of a 3-part series where we refute atheism. Part 1 tonight will be a discussion of philosophy, how atheism deals with ontology, epistemology, and axiology, or rather how it doesn't deal with those issues. Part 2 will discuss the many historical fallacies and fabrications that atheists have intentionally and maliciously invented about the past. And one of the points that we will flesh out later on is that atheists themselves are by nature inveterate liars, and we will show this pretty conclusively in part 2. And as a general rule, atheists are pathological killers. Today I'm joined by Kay Lewis to discuss how the Bible and MGTOW have certain fundamental overlapping principles. One thing that I think is good to start with is the very first book of the Bible, Genesis chapter 2:18. We read, "And the Lord said, it is not good for man to be alone. I'll make him a helper suitable for him." Alright, so tonight's discussion is female suffrage. So, to argue against female suffrage is sort of verboten right now, so maybe you could begin by laying out your concerns, considerations, and observations about it. One of the key issues of ontology that the atheist runs into a problem with is what does it mean to be human? For the atheists, they have to believe in mereological nihilism. We're just a collection of atoms shaped human-wise, as opposed to chair-wise or something else. Now, if that's the case, which an atheist has to adhere to, because again, they deny universals. There is no human nature, there is no humanity that we all participate in, because it doesn't exist. All we are is just a collection of atoms arranged human-shaped. Now, if that's true, then another thing follows from that atheist assumption, and which is eliminativism, which is the notion that first-person statements, I feel pain, I feel joy, or I saw something, are not true, because there is no I doing the perceiving. These first-person statements must be translated into a purely physical description of what happens. So let's say, I see a tree. No, that's not what the sentence means, according to eliminativism. What it means is the light bouncing off the bark, which is brown, and the leaves, which are green, excluded, right, all colors but those, right?
Yep.
And then they hit my eyes, the eye follicles, the eye cells, then convert that into an image to my brain. When I see a tree, that's what I'm really saying.